You know, it's funny, we don't know the facts about people's life. I think it'd be really cool if one day a year we got to wear a t-shirt and on the back it said, "I'm still standing," and on the front you can list things that could have knocked you down and kept you down, but you chose to get back up. It'd be pretty illuminating, I think, if you got to see a glimpse into some of the stories people have. If today was that day, my t-shirt would say one thing on the top: "I'm scared for my little sister because she's fighting cancer for the second time. Had chemo today." But you know what's interesting? That doesn't tell you one thing about me, who I am or how I live my life. It tells you stuff that's happened to me that doesn't even define me. But if you read that on my shirt, you'd probably be a little bit more respectful, a little nicer. When you all walked in tonight and I was playing some music and walking around, all I wondered is, what would your shirt say? But I can guarantee you one thing: there's not one person in this room that's not fighting some kind of a battle right now. If there's somebody in this room that has no problems in your life, can you do me a favor and raise your hand? The only people who don't have problems are dead people, so wake up tomorrow and be like, yes, problems. Rachel knew everybody was fighting a battle. She said, you know what? Their battle is their business. My business is being there, being a good friend. That's all she did, a couple of seconds a day. And she changed lives. In some ways, she changed lives a little bit. In other ways, she made huge impacts. This is my buddy Adam, Columbine graduate. He was born with special needs that were mental and physical, so he looked different. He walked different, he talked different, he acted different, all through middle school and high school. Brutally teased by classmates, hated going to school. He went to Rachel's family's home a year after the shootings, and he wanted to tell them the story of the first time he ever met Rachel. Rachel's dad and stepmom were there. Her two older sisters, Bethany and Dana, Craig and Mike, two younger brothers were there. And he said, this one day I was walking down the hall, minding my own business, when out of nowhere, these two really big guys came up. They slammed him up against the locker, knocked the books out of his hands, and started calling him names. Adam said he was used to it. What he wasn't used to was help. Rachel was just down the hall. When she saw what was going on, she was furious. And Adam stood out of nowhere, right between him and those two big guys. This tiny little girl sprinted down the hall, jumped in between, doubled up her fists, looked right at the two boys. If you touch them again, it's go time. You're fighting me. Now, time out from our happy story for a second. Rachel's challenge does not promote or endorse violence of any kind. She should have gone down the hall, got a teacher, brought the teacher down, diffused the situation, everything would have been kumbaya. So this is not a part of her chain reaction of kindness and compassion we want you to copy. Back to the story. So she's standing there with her fists. All right. I promise I won't make you fight for anybody. All right. So she's standing there with her fists in these two big guys' face. I have to imagine these two big dudes were not scared at all. They're probably a little confused. They're thinking, we have three options here. Option one, beat up a girl, look really bad. Option two, what if fired up girl beats us up? Your guy gets beat up by a girl, you transfer schools. So they went with option three, walk away. They said, whatever, Rachel, and they left. Adam and Rachel became friends that day. When I met Adam 2 years ago, I was sharing Rachel's story, and he was literally sitting in the front row with a cowboy hat on, and I went, that looks like him. And all through telling his story, he was laughing hysterically and punching the air. I'm like, it's got to be him. So when I finished, I went down and I said, it's really good to meet you. He said, do you know who I am? I said, I think so. I've been telling your story for 5 years. How'd I do? He goes, you did awesome. And we just started talking. And he told me, Dave, that one day was a Tuesday. He said, I'll never forget when she stood up for me because she kept showing up. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, every day until the shootings happened. And all she did, he said, she'd walk up and go, hey, Adam, how's your day? If I was having a good day, she gave me a high five. When I was having a bad day, he said, she gave me a hug or a pat on the back. And once, he said, she whispered in my ear, it's okay, I always have your back. He said, it was my favorite 10 seconds of every single day. But the first time he shared this story with Rachel's whole family, he looked at Rachel's dad and said, I'm really sorry I never told her she saved my life that day. Not from the two big boys, they weren't going to kill me. He said, I was. At the end of that week, when Rachel met him the first time, he had planned for a few weeks to hang himself in the family barn. He said, I didn't think one person cared if I lived or died until Rachel showed up, and she kept showing up. And in 10 seconds a day, I found my first friend. She gave me hope. She changed my mind. 10 seconds a day. How do we spend 10 seconds a day? Personal observation? We're doing way too much of this. And there's people 5 feet away from us dying for a friend, and we're checking Facebook. There's other faces that need us more than Facebook. Trust me, Zuckerberg's doing just fine. I've been to a dozen schools in my career, Rachel's Challenge, within a month of a suicide. And it wasn't all students. A president of a university, a mother of 5, a faculty member, one of the teachers, the quarterback of the football team, the pretty girl that smiled at everybody in the hallway, gone. And nobody saw it coming and nobody knew what to do. 2 days after the quarterback of the football team hung himself in his bedroom closet, I'm scheduled to be at their school to share Rachel's Challenge. And the principal said, "We're glad you're here, we hope you can help." And in one of the most emotional hours of my life, I shared that story with this boy's friends and classmates. At the end of the program, the biggest high school football player I think I've ever met in my life walked up to me and he was crying. And he said, "Sir, I was in my best friend's room an hour before he hung himself. I should have known something was wrong. Can you please tell me, what did I do wrong?" And I said, "Did he tell you how he was feeling?" He said, "No, sir." I said, "I guarantee you 2 things. You kept him here longer with your friendship, and it wasn't your fault." Then I told him about the mom, the coach, the girl in the hallway, wearing a mask so tight, fooling everybody. Everything was great, but on the inside they were dying, and they never asked for help until it was too late. And I'll never forget, the football player looked at me and said, "Sir, I don't understand. If they're wearing a mask, how do we know who needs help and who doesn't?" And I told him, "You don't. Can you please take care of everybody?" A smile costs you nothing. A moment of your life. To the person you aim at, what if it changes their morning? What if it changes their week? What if it changes their mind? And if there's anybody in this room, you're wearing a mask. And you're fooling everybody. And sometimes you're this close to giving up. Please don't. Strongest people I've ever met in my life are the ones who know when it's time to ask for help. The weakest take the weight of the world on their shoulders and they get crushed. Asking for help is a sign of strength. And if you need help, please get it today. I promise you it gets better. And this world's a much better place with you in it. And I want you all to hear from Adam and some of Rachel's friends about how they feel about people who choose to pick on others and put them down.
If you put yourself in somebody's shoes that you're picking on, how would you feel? Why wouldn't you treat kids the way you treat other kids? How you treat your friends? Why don't you treat other kids like you treat your friends?
There is no way that you can look at a person and label them and judge them and all of a sudden decide that they're not as good as you or they're not, because they don't look a certain way or they don't dress a certain way or they don't talk a certain way, that all of a sudden they're lower than you, because we are all people. I mean, when it comes down to it, we are all humans, we all need love, we all need acceptance, and this world was not designed to put people above other people, so they could just stomp on people, because everyone has feelings and everyone is worth something.
It's just so important not to take who's around you for granted, and further than that, to treat them the way you want to be treated. I mean, it sounds corny and you hear it all the time, but really, you never know what tomorrow brings. You never know what 5 minutes from now brings. And it's all about making sure the last thing you say to somebody, the way you treat them, you feel good with if they weren't around tomorrow.